Tommy with Duncan Lake Speech Therapy, and I'm very excited because we have a very special guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Shelley Walker, and this is Caroline.
I'm very excited that Shelley's here today because Shelley is my cousin. Oh,
and we have another Nolan.
We have another guest. Come on in.
And this is Nolan, the big brother. So this is us, yes.
Shelley is my cousin, and I'm very excited that she's here today because she's going to talk to us about her experience as a mom. So I'm very excited. Shelley, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Okay,
we'll go from there.
As I said, my name is Shelley. I am a mother of two. The oldest one, Nolan, is 7, and Caroline is 2.5. We live in Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. And just like everyone, we are sheltered in place.
Shelley is here in particular to talk to us about Caroline and her experience being a mom of a child with special needs. So I don't know if you want to give us a little background about Caroline, and then we can maybe talk about a couple of other things after that.
Sure. You okay? You chewing your crackers? Okay. You want to get down? So Caroline, yes, is 2.5. She has Down syndrome. We found out with her, we did the prenatal testing. So we found out really early on about, definitively about 14 or 15 weeks. So that gave us a good chunk of time to have an idea of like getting past it and moving on and knowing what we needed to do. Preparation. Got a lot of information. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yep, she was born in November. And probably from about when she was about a month old, we kind of started having interactions with therapies or getting introduced to therapies here for her. She was assessed through, it's called First Steps here in Indiana. That's how they assess first and then put the services in place for therapies for kiddos as needed. But yeah, and that's kind of when we got started. I want to say maybe around 3 or 4 months is when everything kind of started really going for her. Started out primarily with like occupational therapy, but and then added on developmental, and then I think PT, physical therapy, and then lastly speech. So everything kind of happens like as we could. The older she got, certain things when she started talking, that's when you started talking, we added on speech, huh? Mm-hmm. It sounds. Mm-hmm. So we have 4 therapies a week. Everything was up until, this point was in home. But now everything obviously is through virtual visits.
We talk about inclusion a lot on this page. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that's come up a lot is how to talk to young children about disabilities or special needs. So I'm curious how you broached the subject with Nolan, because he was how old when Caroline was born? He was 5?
He was just going to turn 5.
Okay.
So honestly, didn't address it. Mm-hmm. I kind of took the approach of, and even for myself, I didn't want to overload myself with too much information, because I think like anything, there's for lack of a better word, maybe like a spectrum of severity. And at the time we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And it was based on conversations I had with our pediatrician, and some of the physicians that I met with prior to having her, was that you might really not know the severity until she's around 2 years of age, because things can change so drastically, or they just get a better gauge. And I didn't want that to be defining, obviously, for Nolan. Last year, we get a cracker? In kindergarten, he had referenced his yearbook, and there was a picture of a separate class And he and his little friends had said, well, this is the weird class. I said, I didn't get mad. I was just curious. I wanted to see what the mindset was. And I said, well, what makes them weird? And the answer was that, well, they're in all different ages and they're all different classes. And I said, one of them had said, well, I think they're still kind of weird. And I said, well, listen, Caroline has Down syndrome. And what that means for her is she's just going to need a little bit more of help learning to read, learning to write, doing any of the things that you guys are learning how to do in school. And this is what these kids in this class are doing. They just need a little bit of extra help. And that doesn't make them weird. Do you think your sister's weird? And both of them had said, well, no. I said, well, she might most likely be in a class like that because she'll need some extra help. I don't know that, but she very well might be in a class like that. And you wouldn't be okay with someone calling her weird, right? So that was kind of my first dealing with it. And again, I felt like that was probably the most appropriate way. And I just don't want it I think in any situation, it's just easier just to give them the information that they need instead of overloading. But that kind of opened the door to having a conversation. And, they might be fleeting thoughts for him, and I just take them as they come. But just him having an idea of what that's going to look like for her. And what Down syndrome really is. It doesn't change how we feel about her. Mm-hmm. It's just something that's part of her.
I'm curious if there is anything like you would want people to know, like about being a parent of a child with special needs, or you wish that people just kind of understood, or things that you want people to hear about it. Is there anything in that regard?
They're kids. Really and truly, it's just a part of her. Like things you start to see, now that she's a little bit older and she's not the baby anymore, you're starting to see little parts of personality. You're like, oh, yeah, you recognize things. Mm-hmm. It's not a burden. If that makes sense. Things are just different. You just do life a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And that's all I feel like it really is. And the other thing that I think is important, and, I'm just as guilty, is that was her. The people not using the R word. I'm guilty of it growing up through high school, using it, not thinking of the connotations. Well, it's not what you think. That's not what I mean when I'm saying it. Well, regardless, you shouldn't say it anymore. I'm old enough to know it was not okay. Like beyond high school, it's not okay. And if anything else, it just strengthened my conviction in it when, someone or going to give birth to someone that has Down syndrome, or even if, there's still the negative connotation regardless of what you mean. I don't know if it's my biggest fear, if I want to say that, but I guess when Nolan comes home and I hear that come out of his mouth, or have him ask a question about that, mm-hmm. Those are the things that I think about. But I think I'm hoping just like when we first had the conversation about Down syndrome and him recognizing the difference of these other kids, that I'll just feel like it's just a word we don't use. It's a name. It's a word. It's a name that people mean in a mean way. And it's not okay to say about somebody.
And I think that there are a lot of things that we've all said that are really regrettable. Like
absolutely.
Nobody is guilt free of this.
Yeah.
And
I don't by any means think I'm on a high horse. Do you know what I mean?
But it's more like the more you know, the better. You don't know until you know, and when you know, you do better. So that's where we need to be right now.
Yeah.
There was a question that came up from just a random follower of the practice. One of the things we had talked about with Cassie Peerboom, who did the video with me, we talked about not like shushing kids when they ask questions about people with disabilities, not being like, ooh, you know, this is like a bad thing to talk about. Do you feel like do you have any tips for parents if they're curious about disabilities, or like a good way to kind of navigate that?
I think if anything, just coming up and asking a question, and I think that's part of the problem is if you sit and shush it and you don't ask questions, then your kids are left, adults are left to come up with their own conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, buddy.
But he does have a little friend in his class that he actually, what's going on with him? Does he have a hard time hearing?
He has a hard time talking. He can't speak that well.
He can't speak that well?
Mm-hmm.
But that's Nolan's buddy. He actually walks him to and from his class. Mm-hmm. That's one of his jobs. Mm-hmm. So, and I honestly think, you just want the cracker. Sorry. He was chosen to do that for a reason. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nolan is probably one of the most compassionate kids, mm-hmm. and most including kids I've ever known.
Well, and that comes too from having the model from his family. Do you have any resources that you frequent that you would recommend other people use to learn more about Down syndrome or just special needs in general?
I know everything that I use is specific, I know, to Indiana. Like, I know, like, if with Michigan, if they have, like, probably, like, a website for those resources. And I am on a couple of Facebook groups, too, for parents with kids with Down syndrome. Some of them are just strictly, like, support. Some of them there's one that's called The Real Truth About Down Syndrome, which I love because it's real. And it's... Mm-hmm. Other place that we weren't able to frequent as much as I would like, and especially now because everything's shut down, is Gigi's Playhouse. I don't know if there is one in Michigan.
There's not, I don't think, but no. I do love Gigi's. Tell me.
Gigi's is awesome. They put together programs for kids of all ages, starting from, like, I think 3 months, maybe sooner up. But, like, everything is based on volunteers. But, like, as far as, like, they'll help hook up with therapies for the kids, socializing the kids, having social nights for the older kids or adults. It's just everything. And what anyone can provide as far as, like, volunteering, like, to showing the kids a special skill or something, it's awesome. Anything that they'd be able to do, that's great.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Gigi's also offers, like, a lot of just, like, information. I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna link it I'll link it in the comments.
It gives people, families, moms, dads, an opportunity to link up with people in the community that have kids the same age. So
I do love Gigi's. Here in West Michigan, we have the Down Syndrome Association of West Michigan. It's based out of Grand Rapids. They offer a lot of programming as well and do a lot of community involvement. And they did a big thing for World Down Syndrome Day, which was just recently. Yeah. And so we have an equivalent type resource here in West Michigan, but Gigi's is we do love them. I'm going to give you an opportunity right now. If there's anything I missed that we didn't talk about, but you feel you would like to share, this is your moment.
I guess what I would like to say is that if this is a new journey for anybody, it's for me, I know initially it's pretty putting services in place, trying to figure out what your child needs. It's intimidating. It can be overwhelming. But all those people are there to really kind of help you and give you whatever resources that you need. Take everything day by day and make sure to use really, if someone says that they're there to support you or do whatever they can, because honestly, they're trying to probably learn too. I mean, that's another person that this is, that's learning.
Well, thank you very much for chatting with us. I really appreciate it. And
thank you. I hope I helped somebody.
Well, I'm sure you did. And I always just like to see your face, so that always helps me.
Yours pretty.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the comments. Shelley is...
I will follow, and I will do my best to answer.
She is taking care of 2 young children at home right now, so just be aware of that. But we will do our best to answer.
There might be a cheese that attached to the answer, but...
I hope so.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later this week, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.